leadership is always about seeking and acting upon what is right, regardless of the cost. If there's one thing I've learned in life, is that if you seek out to do something good, watch out, because in the invisible world, and this may sound kind of strange for some of my listeners, but there is more going on in this world than we can see with our eyes. There are forces of evil, and evil does hate good. It's the strangest thing. When you step up to lead, even if your motives are right, to serve others, to solve problems, you put a target on your back. That's what happens. Leadership is really about solving problems. It's about serving. It's about bringing people together. It's about living in the truth, living in the light. And so when you try to do those things, you will attract attention. Welcome to the Today Counts show. Today does count because it impacts, it influences your tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. The Today Counts podcast is sponsored by the generous donors of the Lead Today community. I'm your host, Kim Piper. In my last episode, I shared 10 principles that I want to pass down to my grandkids. And as I said in that episode, I could have added 5 more, 10 more, who knows? 20 or 30 of those. And often what's asked of me is, where do I come up with this stuff? What am I doing with my time? And, one of the things that I want to say as I work with leaders around the country is, and this, this is an old cliche. It was cool at one point, and it was like wow, a really cool thing. And now, I think everybody's heard it, but, we used to say, work on your business, not just in your business. I think that was a refreshing thing for people to hear when that first came out. And I'm not sure when that first came out, but the idea is that when you get your head down and you're working and you're working and you're working, you're not keeping your head up. You're not really seeing the big picture. You're not backing away from the day-to-day grind. And so you miss stuff and you don't lead as well. And the examples that, I like to use in explaining working on versus working in is, like when little boys and girls learn how to play soccer and they start dribbling the ball. When they start dribbling the ball and they're inexperienced, their head is down. They're looking at their feet dribbling the ball. Now, when you watch Olympic soccer or professional soccer or heck, high school soccer and college soccer, you just don't see them looking down at the ball. They're dribbling the ball while they have their head up, looking to see the opportunities around them. And the same in basketball. It's the exact same thing. The little boys and girls, they concentrate on bouncing that ball, and they have their head down. The whole world of basketball is going on around them. People are open for a shot, and they don't know it, right? But then as they get older and learn how to play, they can dribble with their head up. They don't even have to look at the ball. It becomes part of their body. But not only is that true in business, it's true in life. And one of the things, one of the topics, one of the initiatives that I work on in my ministry with leaders is teaching them how to elevate their leadership. Elevate. So just think of chin down, chin up. So many of us, we get promoted in life, so to speak, by doing a good job at whatever it is, and then we get promoted. But often the promotion now, those duties and skill sets are different. But we tend to try to do in the new role, in the new place in our life, what we did before. And as that newer adage, what got you here won't get you there. So if you're married and you want to be married for a long time, you can't just work in your marriage. You have to work on your marriage. If you are somebody of faith, you can't just do the things in faith, the rituals and whatnot, but sometimes you need to back up and really think about it. If you are a father, a mother, a grandfather, a grandmother, an uncle, an aunt, a leader, all the different roles that you play in life, what we say in business is also true in life. You need to back up on a regular cadence, a regular routine, and spend some time working on your life, thinking about your life. So, in the last episode, I covered those 10 things. They're the top 10 right now. They may not be the top 10 in a year, but they're the top 10 things right now that I'm trying to pass down to my grandchildren bit by bit as I have opportunity. But where do I come up with those? Well, I came up with those by working on my own life, reflecting and looking at the things that I've learned in life. And so I also work on different things like, what are my convictions? So, I've got a million things on my to-do list. My calendar is packed. I'm not sitting here going, gee, what should I do with my day? I have to block time to work on me. And I have morning times every single day to do that. I've got exercise time because the body and the soul were made together and they complement one another. You can't neglect one and think the other will, pull you through. You've got to work on both. And I've learned that as I've gotten older, in my 60s now, I've got to do more work on my physical body than I did when I was younger. I just can't get away living the way I did 30 years ago. I just can't. It's a different deal. And so I also block time weekly to reflect. And in one of those reflections, or I shouldn't say one of those because it doesn't happen that quickly, in a culminating fashion, I created a document called My Convictions. Now, my convictions are not my core values, but there is overlap. My convictions are not my initiatives, although they overlap. And my convictions are not necessarily related to my one annual big mega goal, but I'm sure that they're related. And so as I share my convictions with you, I'm not projecting my convictions on you, but I want you to hear the tone and I want you to think about it. And I'm going to give you your assignment before you even listen to this entire podcast. I want you to do this. I think that you will find if you do these exercises, they'll cleanse you. They'll lower your stress. They'll lower your heart rate. They will slow you down so that, again, another adage, so that you can go faster. Stoicism is lost in our society and it needs to be regained. Pensiveness, thoughtfulness, study, prayer, journaling, writing, researching, these are the things, at least in part, that I want to challenge you to bring back in your life. And if you've never had them in your life, what a treasure it would be for you to discover that now. I will begin. My convictions, and again, I've got them down to 10. I like the number 10. And I read over these, and they do change, but I try to limit it to 10. So there's probably 50 or 100 ideas that compete for these top 10. So year by year, they could be a little bit different. It doesn't mean that my convictions change, although there is some truth to that, I would imagine, but they become more exact, right? So let's get started. So as I have working on me and not just doing what I do, I came up with these 10 convictions. Number 1, holistic health Holistic health determines my ability to perform and help others. Now, I've had some health challenges over the years, and so in fact, I don't even participate in certain things the way I used to because of some of my health limitations. But I'm doing that so that I can finish strong, so that I can sustain greater health and do more in the long run. So when I say holistic health, I'm constantly working on eating better. And you know what? I don't get a very good grade at that. I mean, certainly I know people, and I just don't know how they do it. I mean, it's like they go out and graze with the deer. I don't get how they do that. But man, my eating disciplines are 100 times better than they were, 2 or 3 years ago. But I've got a long ways to go. So it includes my eating. Exercise. I exercise at least 4 days a week. I normally get in 5 and sometimes 6. I never do 7. But that's, important to me. To me, prayer is part of holistic health, and reading and learning and sitting and be quiet. Going to church is part of my holistic combination, if you will. And I pursue holistic health because it has a lot to do with my ability to perform and help and serve others. So that's number one. That's a conviction. So why do you develop these convictions? Because they inform your calendar. Convictions inform your calendar. They tell you what's important. So you want to filter all the requests that are coming to your calendar through your convictions. And that's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. Second, family is my most important investment and responsibility. I believe that the number one ministry that God has delegated to me is my wife, my kids, their kids, my parents, my siblings, my family. And so, in the day and age in which we live, we're scattered around the country, but we still make it a priority to talk, to text, to fly there and visit, to be together, to help each other, to pray for one another. Now, my kids and my grandkids currently live with me in the same city. So what that looks like to me is I've got 7 grandkids, and I am going to a lot of sports and school and church activities. And that's just the way it is. And that's how I choose it. It's important to me. My wife and I take the better part of one day each week just to spend on our relationship. That's another example of what we do. So family is my most important investment and responsibility. Third, a faith-filled and positive attitude produces supernatural energy and creativity. Now, I'm not talking about, sugar-filled ideas and platitudes. I have found to have a faith-filled and positive attitude, I've got to cultivate perspective. And that's a lot of hard work. To give you some examples, I believe we live in a broken world. That's not a negative thing. It's truth. I believe we live in a broken world. And by embracing that reality, I know that I am not here to try to create heaven on earth. That is not the goal. The goal is not to try to live a life without difficulties, because that's impossible when you live in a broken world. So by understanding and embracing the idea that we live in a broken world, I'm not as shocked when crappy things happen to me and to those that I love and to my neighbors and whomever. And so, when you start with a foundation of truth, then you can build positive energy. You can build problem solving. You can build your education. You can build these things that cause you to have a positive impact on a broken world, and to help and join with God in his mission to reconcile the world to himself. And according to the Bible, he will do that in time, and he's doing that even in this very moment. And well, heck, this podcast is part of his design. This podcast is to teach people about God, to teach people about leadership, to teach people about life, to teach people about relationships. So the whole motive is reconciliation. That's what this is about. So to be faith filled, you got to understand the story of life. And so that begins in the book of Genesis and ends in the book of Revelation, everything in between. And our story is woven into that. All right. A faith-filled and positive attitude produces supernatural energy and creativity. All right. The next one is living according to my design. I have been designed a certain way. I've been given a certain temperament. I've been given certain talents. I've been given certain liabilities, blind spots, opportunities, whatever. I've been given a bushel of stuff. So living according to my design in that bushel is where I will experience both joy and success. Misery comes by comparing yourself to others. Misery comes by comparing your opportunities to other people's opportunities. Instead, what we're doing here by faith is we're recognizing that God has given me some things to steward. And I will be successful in life by focusing on what I've been given and steward those things that I have been given, including my own design. Next, financial health provides opportunities to enjoy and serve. Now, maybe you've come from a wealthy home. I did not. I came from a middle-class family, a hardworking family, a moral family, a family of faith. And so when my wife and I got married, we kind of made some mistakes. We were really young. And so we got into some consumer debt. And if you listen to the last episode, I talk about consumer debt, and I want my grandkids to stay away from that like a plague. But we had to learn for the first, I think it was probably, we didn't fall into that spider web for too long. But those 3 to 4 years in the beginning of our marriage was, kind of foolish. And so we learned from that, and we became much more financially astute and disciplined. And we have pretty much been, everybody makes financial mistakes and maybe impulse buys. But for most of the 43 years that we've been married, we've turned a little into a lot. Not a Bill Gates a lot, not a Donald Trump a lot, not that kind of a lot, but more than we need, and might I even say deserve. So I believe that financial health is an aspect of spirituality. It's important, and financial health does provide opportunities to enjoy life and to serve others. It provides freedom. It provides generosity. It provides future. That's what financial health does. The next is leadership. Leadership is always about seeking and acting upon what is right, regardless of the cost. If there's one thing I've learned in life, is that if you seek out to do something good, watch out, because in the invisible world, and this may sound kind of strange for some of my listeners, but there is more going on in this world than we can see with our eyes. There are forces of evil, and evil does hate good. It's the strangest thing. When you step up to lead, even if your motives are right, to serve others, to solve problems, you put a target on your back. That's what happens. People love blaming leaders. They love leaning on leaders. They love receiving everything that flows downhill from a leader. There is a very dysfunctional understanding of leadership in our world today. Leadership is really about solving problems. It's about serving. It's about bringing people together. It's about living in the truth, living in the light. And so when you try to do those things, you will attract attention. And a lot of that attention is unhealthy attention. It's jealousy. It's suspicion. It's flat out war, because some are trying to build things in the darkness and you are competing with that. Heck, even the darkness competes with itself. It's crazy. So when I get attacked as I'm trying to make a difference, for example, if I say something hard to a company, if I say something hard to a nonprofit, if I say something hard to a church, I don't do it in disrespect. I do it in respect because of the mission that they're on, and I take their mission seriously. And sometimes I will get not just pushback, but I will get angst, and sometimes more than angst. And it can be tough. So when those times happen, I just remember that is what happens when you're a leader. When you're a leader, if you can't take the shots, you probably not ready for that rank anyway. So leadership is always about seeking and acting upon what is right, regardless of the cost, and there is a cost to leadership. The next is, I believe the grace of God is indescribable and beyond comprehension. The Bible tries to describe the grace of God, but it's limited to vocabulary. It's limited to linguistics. It's limited to imagination. But when you read the Bible carefully, even though we here on planet Earth do a lot of things to spite ourselves, and we do reap what we sow, we tend to think that reaping what you sow is a negative thing, but it's also a positive thing. It's also a positive thing. If we sow good things, generally we will reap a good harvest, a good crop from that. But even that has limitations, and that's where God's grace kicks in. And I believe that not only have I received blessings in this life well beyond what I deserve because of his mercy, I believe that I'm going to receive grace after this life is over, a grace that's completely indescribable and beyond comprehension. I believe that's waiting for me on the other side of this life, not because of anything that I have done, but because of what he has done and the faith that I have in him. I am telling you, not because of anything that I have done. In no way do I lean on that. If I did, I would be one foolish man. All right, I've got 3 more, so hang with me. Here's the next conviction. I am called to honor everyone, even those I do not agree with or respect. I believe Jesus did that. Jesus did not agree with everybody. He did not keep his mouth shut when there was respite. He definitely disagreed. He definitely made that clear. But you saw the grace and the mercy that he dispersed while he was physically here on this planet doing what he was doing. So his life has taught me that though I might disagree, though I might be adamant about certain things that I believe are wrong, for example, in our current culture, we have extremes on both sides of the ledger. And both of those extremes are wacky. They're just wacky. And they make no sense. I understand that mental health is an issue, but, God knows what he's doing in our biology. He knows how he made men and women. And we need to seek him for help when when we feel, sideways, but we don't deconstruct what God called very good. So even in those kinds of extremes, even the stuff they try to teach kids in school, I can go on. My daughter is a school teacher, and I mean, what a challenge today to be a school teacher. So anyway, in spite of how divided we are in the United States of America, and I definitely, line up on one side much more than the other, I am called to honor. And that's a conviction that I have. Honor doesn't mean I can't disagree. It doesn't mean that I don't vote. It doesn't mean that. It means that I honor everyone because because everyone is an image bearer of their creator. All right. And I know that's a tough one for some, but and it's tough for me sometimes. Sometimes I don't want to honor a certain somebody. I may totally disagree with what they said or what they've done, but I can still honor the person. And then number 9 is, these next two are just as powerful to me than the previous 8. But number 9, my words matter. I think I've gotten better at that as I've aged. Every word that I say has power. It has power to encourage. It has power to equip. It has power to forgive. It has power to provide hope. It has power to point to the right things. It also has the power to tear down. It has the power to deconstruct, to hurt, to destroy, to wound. My words matter. And not just the ones that I direct towards others, even the words that I direct towards myself. I often hear the pastor of our church say, our words create our worlds. And I believe that's true because while animals create habitats, humans create many worlds or cultures within the world. That's how powerful our words can be. And then 10th and finally, prayer. Prayer not only changes things, and I can I can share testimony or bear witness to that. Little things and big things. Now, I haven't finished my statement here in the conviction. Let me do that first. Prayer not only changes things, talking with God changes me. Talking with God changes me. So a lot of my prayers were not answered in the way that I desired, but some have been. And some have been to such an extent that I'm convicted that it was God literally answering the prayer. In other words, I would dare say that if I hadn't prayed and hadn't asked, it may not have happened. But even more important than that, I find that when I talk with God, now I talk with God all the time. If I'm coming into a meeting to meet with you, I'm praying for you before I even get to the meeting. I'm praying that God would bless you, that God would favor you, that God would enlighten your mind, that God would encourage you, that God would draw himself to you, that God would bless you, protect you and your family, all of those kinds of things. I pray when I'm driving down the road. But my favorite way of praying is when I write in my journal, because there's just something about, documentation. And I know that sounds so silly, but to write is hard. It takes time, and especially because I use a pencil. And the pencil goes slower than a ballpoint pen. And, my world is going 100 miles an hour. But the reason why I like to pray by writing is because it slows down. Just to write the word the. I mean, how many times can I say the before I can write the word the? And So it slows me down. It makes me more mindful, and it becomes more powerful for me. And I truly do believe that talking with God changes me, and it changes my anxiety to peace. It changes my worry. It changes my hatred. It changes my jealousy. It changes my, whatever crap I'm dealing with. Um, it has the power to transform those negative things and put them in the light and get off the mildew, get off the junk, and make them come to life in a new and fresh way. So the purpose of sharing those with you isn't not it certainly isn't for you to know my convictions, like that's important, but I think that you felt the weight. I think that you felt the significance of these 10 things. What if we flip things around and I said to you, why don't you just take the next week or month or a couple of months, or heck, take a season, grab a journal and just start brainstorming. What are your deep and closely held convictions that if you meditate on them, if you think about them, they'll have a way of shaping your behaviors, because your behaviors follow these convictions. When you work on your life, good things come from it. Not just the hustle and bustle, running out of the house, going to work, coming home, making dinner, taking care of the kids, talking with your spouse, whatever your life situation looks like. Take some time and back up. Now, our ministry Lead Today provides 3 workbooks that can help you in this process if you're interested. If you're interested, you can just go to our website, leadtodaycommunity.com, and shoot us a message, or you can frankly send an email directly to me, jim@leadtodaycommunity.com. So, 10 convictions. That's your homework. I hope that you'll embrace it. And I know if you do, it will have a transforming and encouraging effect on you. If you're not part of the Lead Today community, let me invite you. Go to leadtodaycommunity.com. That's leadtodaycommunity.com, and sign up for Monday Moments. It's a weekly email that will encourage your leadership. Again, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for telling a friend about the Today Counts show.